There is a land where dragons dwell. The dragon's power comes from the teeth, and the cavity bacteria on the teeth will make the dragon's power decline. Therefore, there's a sacred pact between dragon and men from the Dragon Kingdom. That is, the people of Dragon Kingdom help dragons to protect their teeth, and the dragon will help the people of the Dragon Kingdom with the war when war breaks out between the Dragon Kingdom and the enemy country. But since the dragon is so powerful, it is not allowed to participate directly in the battle as a battle force, but just as an aerial reconnaissance. The dragon can accurately know the location of the enemy, and the enemy's firearms would be ineffective below the dragon. The protagonist Nanoko is a dragon dentist whose job is to take care of the dragon's teeth. She and other dragon dentists live in the dragon's body. Their daily work is to remove the cavity bacteria on dragon teeth. They live in the mouth of the dragon and lead a relatively safe life compared to the outside. The teeth are the root of the dragon's power, but also the dragon's ultimate weakness. One day, after work, she climbs up to the tooth bed, and a veteran dentist named Shibana is waiting for her. As the two talks, Nanoko spots numerous light spots. She never sees such a bizarre sight and runs in the direction of the moving light spots. Then she finds a boy lying on the dragon's teeth. The crowd says this boy is a revenant, a sign that something terrible will happen. They say that right before some great calamity, the dead brought back to life by the dragon will emerge like this from beyond its teeth. Thus, this boy must be dead somewhere out there. They learn from the boy's clothes that he's an enemy officer. Just as they are discussing what to do with him, he awakens and tries to run away but is quickly subdued by Nanoko with a direct kick and is tied up with a rope. The officer of the Dragon Kingdom comes and tries to take away the resurrected enemy officer. The dentist captain states that all those who emerge from the teeth are dragon dentists, meaning the boy is also a dragon dentist. Let the dentists handle what happens down here in the teeth. The dentist captain then puts Nanoko in charge of the boy named Belle, to teach him how to become a dragon's dentist because she's the one who found him. Belle is reluctant to eat the rice balls Nanoko has prepared for him because he has no intention of living. He doesn't know why the dragon resurrected him and believes that resurrecting him was a decision made by the dragon without his permission. Veteran dentist Shibana sees through him. She says that Belle has a face of someone who's never made a choice for himself. He can't even decide whether to eat or not to eat by himself. She thinks that Belle should have entered the military school for the sake of his family's reputation and went with the flow. In fact, Belle did get into military school by relying on his parents, who were military doctors. Shibana tells him that being alive means he always has to make a choice, to eat or to starve, to fight or to die. Belle is touched by her words. Therefore, he takes out the knife with which he had intended to kill himself. Then he gnaws on the rice balls while shedding tears. Belle begins to learn to become a dragon dentist. The first thing he has to do is to bathe with Nanoko to purify themselves. They go to the dental bed. Belle looks at various bacteria in the crevices of the dragon's teeth with some discomfort. Nanoko tells Belle about the information of various bacteria and their dangers. Many cavity bacteria would comes out from the dragon's teeth every day. The more intense the human war, the more cavity bacteria. The dragon can't use its powers if it gets a cavity. Thus, the dragon dentists work to keep the teeth cavity free. After a tiring day, Nanoko shows Belle a bacteria dubbed tartar mushy. These little guys are rock hard, so dragon dentists remove them bit by bit each day. Nanoko enjoys touching them because she can hear happy voices deep inside the dragon's teeth. But when Belle puts his hand on them, Belle starts to cry because those are the voices of people who have died. The voices of all the dead are passing through the dragon's teeth. That is their last thoughts about this world. It turns out that after people of the Dragon Kingdom or the enemy country die, their souls will enter the dragon's teeth, and they will leave their relics they can't take away here. Maybe it's because it's too much of a burden, or they just don't need it anymore. Belle strokes the tartar mushy, thinking of his dead parents and wonders if they also left their thoughts here. And what is the meaning of the dragon to bring him back to life? He wants to know the answer, so he stays here as a dragon dentist. One day, the dentist captain tells the crowd that the dragon will go to the front line of the war. As the war intensifies, there will be more and more dead, and the number of tooth decay bacteria in the dragon's teeth will also increase, so get ready for it. One day, with a roar from the dragon, a dragon tooth crumbles, and a large amount of black liquid gushes out from it. A bacterial dubbed Tengu-mushi which feeds on human flesh comes out. The last time Tengu-mushi appeared, they lost almost all the dentists. It is a very dangerous and scary monster. The dentists take out their weapons and bravely go up to fight the Tengu-mushi, but the Tengu-mushi is able to move freely in the teeth and it's very tricky to catch it. Nanoko is below to repair the broken dragon teeth while other dentists are struggling with it. The dentists set up boundaries to limit the speed of the Tengu Mushi. Shabana, a survivor of the last Tengu Mushi disaster, rushes up alone to fight the Tengu, but is no match for it. Shabana accidentally breaks the boundary and lets it escape. When the Tengu Mushi tries to get back into the dragon's teeth, it runs into Nanoko and wants to devour her. Her colleague, Shuzo, throws his weapon at it to protect Nanoko. The Tengu Mushi then opens its bloody mouth and begins to attack Shuzo. Just then space seems to have stalled. Shuzo sees the sight of his own death when he holds a bottle of poison tightly in his hand. He seems to have accepted the reality that he would die. The Tengu Mushi devours Shuzo as well as the poison in Shuzo's hand, then the poison weakens it. The dentists take the opportunity to work together to kill it. They find Shuzo's body inside and watch as the dentist symbol on his arm disappears. The dentist captain says today is the day of Shuzo's oncoming verge, so everyone gathers to celebrate it. Oncoming verge is the day a dentist die, this is the rule there, but Bell couldn't accept celebrating his partner's death, so he throws the glass on the ground and turns away. At night, Nanoko tells Bell that all dragon dentists except Bell had taken some tests. Only those chosen by the dragon got to go on to become its dentists. In their test, they had seen their death and all knew exactly how it would happen to them. Nanoko, of course, had already seen her death too. Half a year ago, Nanoko heard that the dragon dentists got to eat fresh rice every single day. Therefore, she left everything behind and came to take the dragon dentist test even if she knew this test could get her killed. In her memory, it was an enemy soldier who shot her dead. Nanoko looked at the soldier with the scar on his face who killed her but wasn't afraid. Instead, she accepted her destiny. Anyone will die, right? Nanoko, who accepted her fate, was reborn from the dragon's teeth as a dentist. Of those who were tested with her, Nanoko was the only one who passed the dragon's test, while the others who couldn't accept their fate or tried to fight back became part of the dragon's teeth. Bell feels puzzled. He thinks just waiting around for the day they'll die is the same as plain suicide. Nanoko rhetorically asks him, is living long really the only reason to live? This immediately makes Bell speechless. For Nanoko, life is not to live a little longer, everyone will die, so you can only accept such a fate, and do what you think is meaningful. When the dentists repair the broken dragon tooth, the dentist caption notices one thing, that is, the broken dragon tooth has human traces. The next day the dentist captain points his weapon at Shabana, saying that he has found the container where Shabana raises the Tengu Mushi larva. Everyone is anxiously waiting for Shabana to explain, but Shabana shows no emotion. She asks everyone what point is there in simply waiting to accept your death. She believes that a life that can only wait for death is meaningless. So she wants to change the dentist's absurd way of living. After saying that, she opens her mouth. It turns out she hides away a dragon tooth fragment there in which a Tengu Mushi larva emerges. She and Tengu Mushi larva merge into one and become a monster with the ability to think on its own. She begins to recklessly destroy the already shaky dragon's tooth. The dentist captain comes to stop Shabana and cuts off one of her tails. But by this time the broken dragon's tooth is already shaking and seems to be about to fall. Nanoko grabs a rope and tries to fix the tooth, but the support built below is no longer enough to fix the wobbly dragon teeth and completely collapse. In order to save Nanoko, Bell jumps onto the falling dragon's tooth and falls from the mouth of the tooth with Nanoko and the dragon's tooth. The dragon tooth floats on the ground, then shatters. Only the core of the dragon's tooth remains. The tip of it points in the direction of the dragon as if it tries to return to the dragon. Bell takes it with her, intending to return it to the dragon's mouth. Just then, the enemy soldiers who come to search for the dragon's tooth appear. They know Bell and are shocked at his resurrection from the dead. They then call their captain, a man named Blanco, the man who killed Bell. Bell recalls the scene of the day he was killed. The colonel Bell respected was seriously injured. Blanco felt the colonel was a burden and decided to abandon the colonel. Bell raised his gun and insisted that Blanco take the colonel with them. Blanco pointed out that Bell didn't even dare to pull the trigger on the battlefield. He then snatched Bell's gun and slashed Bell's throat with his knife. Since they were underneath the dragon at that time, Bell was revived by the dragon afterward. Blanco wants to get the dragon's tooth. However, the Dragon Kingdom's army passes by and fights with Blanco's troops. Blanco has to retreat first. The army of the Dragon Kingdom promises to escort Nanoko and Bell back to the dragon. Bell decides not to return to the dragon because he can't agree with the dragon dentist's attitude of accepting death peacefully. He doesn't want to see the moment Nanoko dies, so he decides to leave. Nanoko doesn't say anything but just turns away and leaves with the soldiers. Not long after, Bell finds Blanco chasing Nanoko and the dragon's tooth core is snatched away by Blanco's men. Blanco hijacks a military plane, and his goal is not the dragon's tooth core, but to use it to get through the dragon's barrier to the dragon. The plane is about to take off. But at that moment Belle arrives on horseback, takes Nanoko after the plane, and manages to climb up the plane before it takes off. They carefully climb on the fuselage to the hatch and prise open the hatch. A moment later, Nanoko jumps in, grabs the dragon's tooth core, and then jumps off the plane. But in midair Shabana suddenly appears and brings Nanoko back inside the cabin. Blanco and the others want to kill Nanoko, but Shabana protects Nanoko. Nanoko doesn't understand why Shabana is working with Blanco. Blanco then says because everyone hates the dragon. The plane manages to break through the dragon's barrier and gets onto the dragon. Nanoko's battle power soars after she returns to the dragon. She grabs back the dragon's tooth core and fights with Blanco and others in the cabin. The plane crashes into the warship on Dragon's back. Blanco steps out of the cabin and looks at the Dragon Palace at the top of the warship where his true purpose lies. He climbs up to the Dragon Palace, kills the cleric guarding it, and then finds what he wants, the dragon's wisdom tooth, the key to the human-dragon sacred pact. If the wisdom tooth disappears, the sacred pact between humans and dragon that has lasted for thousands of years will also disappear and the dragon dentists will cease to exist. That way his country can defeat the Dragon Kingdom. On the other hand, Shabana returns to the dragon's teeth and the dentist captain asks her why she's doing this. Shabana knows that people will stay in the dragon's teeth after they die. Seeing Belle, who has been resurrected from the dragon's teeth, she is even more convinced of this. She wants to resurrect her dead lover from 12 years ago, so she uses the power of the Tengu Mushi to enter the dragon's teeth. Shabana first sinks into a pool of clear water, and as she continues to sink into a black hole, the speed of sinking becomes faster and faster. Eventually she reaches a space that's distorted, and everything becomes blurred. After an unknown amount of time, a white light flashes. When Shabana opens her eyes again, she's back 12 years ago and sees her lover holding her hand beside her. She kisses her lover with tears. But when she comes to her sense, her lover turns into a photo, and then his face begins to twist and swell, turning into a giant eye that completely swallows Shabana. The cavity of the tooth that Shabana entered sprouts a huge round tooth decay fungus. The dragon is overwhelmed and falls down from the sky. The tooth decay fungus grows bigger and finally explodes into a pile of intestine-like tooth decay fungus. It's like a war machine that only knows how to kill, harvesting the heads of soldiers on both sides of the battlefield. However, it does not attack anyone, but only those with killing intent. Belle discovers that the nutrients needed by this tooth decay fungus are the souls with killing intent. Therefore, Belle asks Nanoko to cut the root of the tooth decay fungus and use the tooth cord to plug it up. Nanoko asks Belle to come along, but Belle tells her he has something else to do. After Nanoko leaves, Belle picks up a gun on the ground. It turns out that Belle saw Blanco enter the Dragon Palace. Blanco comes out of the Dragon Palace with the wisdom tooth and meets Belle, who comes to him on the stairs. Belle once again raises his gun and points it at Blanco. He knows that Blanco is not the kind of person who can control his inner killing intent when being pointed at with a gun. Blanco really fires a hard shot at Belle. The monster feels Blanco's killing intent and immediately devours Blanco. Belle was shot and fell down the stairs. He deliberately used himself as bait to let the monster kill Blanco to protect the wisdom tooth of the dragon, or the sacred pact between dragon and men. Belle's blood gets into his lungs, making him unable to breathe and on the verge of death. He wonders if Nanoko would laugh if she heard him in the future in Tadarmashi, or would she go back to work indifferently. Somehow, when he thinks of Nanoko, something different from blood fills his chest. Maybe love, maybe gratitude, maybe a sense of happiness. It's wonderful to meet Nanoko. Thank you, Nanoko, my dragon dentist. Nanoko takes the dragon tooth cord to the root of the monster. The dentist captain cuts the root and rescues Shabana from the dragon tooth. Nanoko then throws the dragon tooth cord into the tooth hole, from which blue flames erupt. As the monster touches the blue flame, it immediately solidifies and petrifies, then completely collapses. Those who don't have the intention to kill survive, including a yellow-haired boy with a scar on his face, the person who will kill Nanoko in the future. Shabana is still unwilling to give up the idea of resurrecting her lover and flies off into the sky. The lost dragon tooth grows back, and the wisdom tooth returns to the dragon palace, making the dragon regain its strength to take off again. There are many dead relics in the dragon teeth. Belle's gun is also in it. This anime discusses whether life is predestined or personal efforts. The story doesn't tell us whether fate is predestined or can be changed by personal efforts. But we get to see people who accept their fate, such as Nanoko, living well in her life, and people who resist fate, such as Shabana, doing what she wants most. In fact, whether accepting fate or rebellion against fate, there is no certain good and bad ending. What people have to do is to believe in their own choice. After all, constantly doubting their own choice is the most painful life. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to JoJo Anime for more stories like this if you enjoy.